Women of Culture 365 presents G.L.O.W, a greater level of wellness, with your co-host, Mia Alman, founder of Women of Culture 365 and G.L.O.W, a certified life, health, and nutrition coach, Sophia Green, producer and host of the Sophie G radio show, bringing you words of wisdom, Don Hewitt, certified holistic health coach on how to treat the whole body, and Lady Q, founder of Sisters of Faith and Pink 360, an evangelist and certified life purpose coach, bringing you spiritual advice. Join us as we go Facebook Live every third Tuesday at 7 p.m. to talk about the mind, body, and soul, a conversation you do not want to miss. Please bring your questions as you discover the power of your glow.
Hi, I'm Coach Mia, and welcome to G.L.O.W 365, which equals greater level of wellness. I am your producer and host for the evening, coming to you from Kaye, Florida. We have an exciting show for you today. In this episode, we will be talking about the 5 love languages and human sexuality to build stronger relationships with our special guest, Dr. Susan Kaye. But before we get started, let me introduce my co-host, Sophie G.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Blessings to you all. I know it's been a while.
Yes.
It's good to be back. I know I had been off for the last meeting, the last show, but it's good to be back here, and I'm looking forward to this show right here. Talking with Dr. Kaye and just getting into it with her expertise and tapping into, the languages that we all should try to be aware of when it comes to relationships and how it applies to our lives and our everyday situations and, the different people in our lives. Mia, I am so looking forward to this conversation. And without any further ado, man, let's get it started.
Let's go.
Let's roll.
No, give credit to the gentleman that actually created this book here, The 5 Love Language, is a #1 New York Times international bestseller. The 5 Love Languages, you'll discover the secret that has transformed millions of relationships worldwide. Whether your relationship is flourishing or failing, Dr. Gary Chapman's proven approach to showing and receiving love will help you experience a deeper and richer level of intimacy with your partner, starting today. With that said, let me introduce our special guest. But before, I want to share a little bit about who Dr. Susan Kaye is.
I am Dr. Susan Kaye. I am a sexologist, a professor of human sexuality, and also the co-founder of the Institute for Mind-Body Therapy. Ideal clients are folks who are struggling. What we see in our office is this disconnect from this vehicle that takes us through life. People have been so shamed and guilted and walk in fear even around our physical being. So to give folks a sense of connection, appreciation, and even love is why I do this work. By not addressing the problems that people walk with in their sensual, sexual life, the result is loneliness. And you can be with someone and still be lonely because the communication isn't there. Our largest sex organ is communication. we teach people to embrace the bodies that they live in as their best friend. The training that I received from my doctorate program was rooted in the Masters and Johnson's process of sensate focus exercises, of communication. And how people change with this therapeutic process is they gain sexual self-confidence. When they're ready to leave, they have acquired a toolbox of the tools and techniques and language that they need to go out in the world and have their own ability to share not only themselves with themselves, but themselves with others. The exciting piece that we've experienced is we get invited to weddings, and we've had babies named after us. People can get in touch with me is very simple, drsusankay.com.
Dr. Kaye, welcome to G.L.O.W. We are so happy to have you here with us.
Thank you. Now you made me homesick. I'm in Pennsylvania, and that's my Texas house and my little Scotty trailer. I want to go camping. So.
Wow. Well, let's, begin sharing, the love languages, which is a base for expressing and receiving love when it comes to words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. Not everyone communicates love in the same way. People have different ways they prefer to receive love. So let's talk about the first love language, which is words of affirmation. They are spoken and written words that confirm, support, uplift, and emphasize with other persons in a positive manner. Dr. Kaye, in your opinion, how important is it in a relationship to place an unusual amount of significance on spoken or written words?
Yeah, our language creates our world or what we walk into. And that's really what I teach my clients. And I'll call them out on their language and I'll say, is there a different word you could use inside of that statement? Or if they don't do their homework, I assign homework always. And when I say about doing your homework and they say, I'll try, I'll say, can you say that differently? Because feel the difference between I'm going to do my homework or I'll try. So our language does create so much around us that we are a lot not aware of how we talk to ourselves and how we talk to others. So absolutely one of the main components of the work that we do. Watch your language.
Yes, because, once we say something, a lot of times we can't take it back. Mm-hmm. So we definitely have to watch what we say. And sometimes take that 3 to 5 seconds pause before saying anything.
Yeah. Yeah, words can last a lifetime, both the negative and the positive.
Definitely. All right, let's move on to the second love language, which is quality time. And it's about giving your undivided attention to your mate without all the distractions of television, phone, or any other outside interference. I discovered, Dr. Kaye, that quality time is my love language. And I was reading that quality time for both men and women, along with words of affirmation, are the most common ones. In the years of counseling, who do you see wanting more of quality time, men or women?
Well, today that's hard to answer. Maybe 10, 20 years ago, I would have said women because the men were out working and the women are home with the children, or, however that scenario is, where we were in when you get into your kind of routines, then you're not sometimes paying attention to what does quality time mean or look like. And so we started creating date nights in the field where they would have to go out and have a date one night a month, maybe. And each month it's an alternate who creates the date so that each person gets to have, a chance and an opportunity to get not only what they want, but maybe to share with their partner what they want them to know that they want. So it's imperative now in today's world because we're so busy and we're so on the phone or on the internet or, we're pulled in so many directions that make sure that we make time, not only for each other or our partnerships, but for yourself, because I believe each relationship begins with you. You can't take an unhealthy you with you into a relationship and expect that relationship to work. So it really goes from that point on is the you with you, and then how do you share that you with other? And quality time, taking time, making time is of really high value.
And I think it's what you just said a while ago. Is something we need to keep in mind as well, because a lot of people are afraid of we're afraid of being by ourselves. A lot of us don't know how to even have quality times with ourselves, by ourselves, because we feel if we're alone, we consider it being bored, or we consider it being lonely, or consider it being not knowing what to do. A lot of us can't live without somebody being present all the time. So what do you say to your clients when they come in and they're like, they don't know how to even start doing that, giving quality time to themselves before they can even learn how to speak another person's love language, whose quality time is actually spending time with that person? Because as you said just now, you got to be able to know how to be with you before you could be appreciate the person's love language. The basics.
So being busy, not sitting still, having all this stuff going on is a distraction. It's a distraction from whatever might be going on inside of us. And to learn how to sit with yourself and to know yourself, then you can for sure be able to report to a partner what you like or don't like and what is your language. Because if you don't know and there's something that's going on for you inside of your connection with yourself, like if you have to be distracted or busy or there's a missing already, not only for you as a person, but for then what do you bring to the table of relationships.
And here's something else that I just wanted to tap right there, piggyback right there, based upon what you just said. When we are starting to get to know one another to court, when we meet somebody, we want to get to know them. One of the things we do is we make time to get to know that person, and we usually invest time doing that, which is quality time. And I think sometimes we get off track, or we think, okay, we know each other now. I know you. I think I like you, and then we forget that that's what we did in the beginning of the relationship. Which I think it's important what you just said earlier, that you go back to the basics by even introducing or reintroducing, date nights or spending quality time, time that you just a special day out of the week just to do just that, just to keep the flame alive, I guess. And I can't wait for you to tell us more about it, because one of your areas also, you specialize in love languages, and especially when it comes to intimacy, sexually speaking. So I want to hear what you have to say about that when it comes to reintroducing that into when your clients come to meet up with you. And I know we're going to cover the other three, Mia, but you know, keep that in mind. I'd love to hear what you have to say when that happens and your clients come to you. How do you reintroduce that and wrap it all into the...
Well, if we start with the word intimacy, how I have folks explore and look at that word is into me see. And so it breaks down that kind of message that we have, that intimacy means sex, because we do that in our culture. We have so many things that mean sex, and we mean the act of sex, like make love gets mixed up with sex. That's another language barrier when I say to you, language creates your world. So I'll ask the client, well, what would it look like if you were to make love? And especially for the men, because women know how to make love. That's right. That's what we're wired for.
We're born.
Men know how to do sex.
We're just born that way.
So we have to teach them. And when we can come into that place where we're vulnerable enough to say, into me see, know me, then you are sharing true intimacy. And that's the goal.
And what do the guys say there? They're like, ooh, baby, into you I want to see.
Now, you told me to keep this PG. Don't you start throwing me off track.
Well, that's your area, sister. That's your area, doc.
Well, it's always raining. It's not always, but most of the time we are reining the guys in. You know, we're reining them in to look at exploring and finding other ways to make love. And one of the most loving things I tell every one of my clients to have on hand, and now we have it on hand because it's on our phone, is a timer. So when you say, honey, would you like a back rub? And so you either, honey, you know, they start going to back rub, and it's like, how long do I have to do this? Is she turned on? Am I turned on? You know, how long do I have to keep going? And so she's going, oh, it feels so good. I know, but I know where this is leading. I wonder how long he's going to do it because it feels so, you know, like who's enjoying the massage? There's this dialogue, and we're stolen away from our bodies because we're living here in our heads. So you're not even feeling or being present to or sinking into. So you set a timer, say, okay, I'm going to give you a massage for 7 minutes. And for 7 minutes, you both can get lost. When the timer goes off, then you can do something else. So it's the most loving thing. We build people a toolbox. That's why I tell them we're going to build you a toolbox. And the first thing that goes in it is a timer. Yeah.
I like that. Which takes us to the next one, Mia.
Yeah. And just, you know, just to piggyback on what you said, Sophie, you know, going back to basics, communication, because, you know, looking back in 2020 when it was during COVID time and we got away from spending quality time and talking, that when we were in a room together, it's like, what do we talk about? You know, so hopefully during that time, some couples, you know, reconnected and got to know themselves, and, you know, because before they were busy working, going here, going there, and not spending that quality time. So I hope during 2020 was a learning lessons to get back on track and going back to basics, you know, and communicating and learning how to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Well, moving on to the next one, which is receiving gifts. And this is a pretty straightforward love language because many of us, we love receiving gifts to make us feel love.
Oh,
all
yeah.
over, not just on special occasions, but yeah, it's always nice to receive a gift. Now, Dr. K, this love language may be misconstrued for a person that cherish receiving gifts as a substitute for love. But on the other hand, that is happens in certain relationships, like the rich and famous, when their partner is too busy to spend quality time. They show their partner by giving them unlimited credit cards to go shop, and that's the way they show love. But rather than going back to, old school and showing that intimate affection, can you share your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it is a tricky one because there's an expectation sometimes around gifts. If it's an anniversary or Christmas or birthday, there's this expectation. And it kind of takes away from what else could be generated or created if there wasn't this focus on the gift giving part. And maybe people would be a little more creative and come up with some other ideas. But I have to tell you, I do hear it a lot in my office. He didn't buy me a Christmas gift. We went shopping, we got the kids all their stuff, and I got him something, but he didn't get me something. And it's a wiring, I think, more for men with a have to. And sometimes their response is, well, I would rather bring you a gift in a surprise mode, like show the flowers sometime, not when I have to do it. So it gets a little messy because there's like a have to around it for men, and there's a social thing almost around it for women, because their friends will be going, "What did he get you for your birthday?" Nothing.
Right.
So then he's really in more hot water because somebody asked and she hadn't told. So I'm actually dealing with this right now with a couple, and he says, but I dry the dishes, I feel like I'm helping you with your stuff. And they have their own way of seeing that, how we're delivering a gift. What does gift mean and look like? So.
And the next one, physical touch, which part of that is a hug, a shoulder squeeze, hold hands, even pat on the back can be an expression of love that just is as meaningful to your partner. Dr. Kaye, as a sexologist and a professor of human sexuality, do you believe that skin to skin contact is a vital, but not only for mental and emotional health, also for physical health? This month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Oh, yeah.
And for those that have been a victim from that or sexually abused, how do they get to that place where they can accept or feel comfortable, feeling secure with that physical touch and not feel threatened?
Well, you've asked a bunch of questions inside of that one question, and there's several answers. Where I stand in that touch is our most important sense inside of our humanity. When we're born, all of our nerve endings are completely developed. We can't see so good, we can't hear so good, we can only smell mother's milk, and we have no taste buds. What happens when we age out? Can't see so good, can't hear so good, we lose our sense of taste and smell. But our skin hungers never change. Our nerve endings in our skin is just as they were when we were born, unless, of course, there's accident or illness. That says to me that our Creator says this is important. Touch is our most vital connection to ourselves and others. Babies that don't get touched die. And elderly people will go get their hair done at the hairdresser just to have touch. You know, I mean, it is a common need that we all share. And I love this song by Dan Hill, and I've played it. I've given sermons actually on touch. Are we out of touch with our humanity? Which happened to be more recognizable inside of COVID. You know, touch is basically illegal, right? And so people are out of touch. And we're out of touch. You know, we do things like violence. And so the song that I had them play at one of the sermons I did was, and you can look it up, Dan Hill, Hill, Dan Hill. Sometimes when we touch, the honesty's too much.
Yep.
Hide my eyes and cry. And I have seen that in clients that come to me. I teach the art of receiving as you are giving. We are so wired to give to get. You know, especially, you know, men think if I touch her the right way, if I do the back rub the right way, right? So I'm going to
get the cookie.
Right? Is this going to do it long enough? Is it good? So it's what I teach is touching for yourself. You know, we have as many nerve endings in our hands as we do in our genitals. They're just spread out more. And that's why you mentioned hand holding. And that's where, you know, we connect into something that we don't get just by walking side by side, even shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow. There's some magic in our hands. And we start in our programs with the hand caress that comes out of the Masters and Johnson's teaching of sensate focus. And I have seen clients where I'll just do their hand for maybe 30 seconds with what I call intention and attention. Like my full awareness and curiosity is what's going on with this hand. Oh, you have a little scar here. I didn't know that. You know, like, do we know our partner's hands are our hands? But I'll just spend 30 seconds. And when I put my hands down, they just sit and look at their hand. And they'll look at me and look at their hand. And a lot of times they'll have tears in their eyes. Because there was no expectation. There was only the honest sharing of giving and receiving. So that's where we start teaching people, how do you touch and what's underneath it? And that leads to what you talk about with abuse. You know, when we have damaged someone with this most vital need that we have, and women are put out there and they're afraid to be touched, or children are afraid to be picked up, or as you can hear in my explanation of that, this is our most developed sense. It's what our Creator said is the most important piece of us that we need to really pay attention to with ourselves and with others. So the damage that's done potentially can last a lifetime. And one story, just one quick story, that's not around abuse necessarily, but I had a client who was a 55-year-old virgin, and he couldn't stand to be touched. It was too tickly for him. He did not come home from the hospital with mom. He had to stay back because he had to have surgery. So he was in an incubator. You know, back in the day, you didn't get held when you stayed back in the hospital. He was had to be isolated. When he came home from the hospital 6 weeks, I think, later, mom was so nervous to touch him, right? And so her touch with him made it for his wiring with his relationship to touch was nervous. And so he resorted to that he just felt like he was being tickled by when being touched.
Wow.
And I can tell you 1,000 of these stories, but that one's always, it's unusual in a sense.
Yeah, you just touched that. You just touched that, and you said two things that I was just about to actually jump in on. One of the things that happens for newborns is as soon as they're brought into this world, they're actually placed on the mommy's bosom. That's to create a bond and connection. Create the nurturing and the cuddling for the mom and bonding with the baby. And you did say something earlier as well that, if a child is not, like, just know, if a child is not being touched or haven't been touched at birth, they don't know what to expect. A lot of people who are not used to being affectionate don't know how to give or receive affection because it doesn't come natural. It wasn't part of their environment per se, for them to have become, it's kind of alien for them. And the second thing was, there's some touches that are just uncomfortable for some people. And would you say that could be related to trauma, even from, it being this month, what it is, domestic violence and some physical abuse or being molested, God forbid. Some touches are just uncomfortable touch for some people, but yet still for those who, if they're involved with someone whose love language is a physical touch, what would you say to that person, that couple who'd come to you when one person needs it because that's their love language, but there's another person who doesn't know how to do it because it's not natural for them because of past trauma?
We have to address the trauma first. So I would probably send them out to someone who does like EMDR or some kind of trauma work that helps clear that. Because there's a memory that's wired in. It's a cellular memory. And when I first started massage, when I first started doing body work back in the 80s, when massage was looked at as the massage parlor kind of massage, but we were taking the language of touch into the therapist's office. And we didn't really know what we were doing, except we had read Barbara Brennan's Hands of Light, which is a great book. It was written in the 70s. And she was a nurse, and she noticed that patients that were touched or paid attention to more just the medical stuff survived in different ways. So she wrote a book about, she still has a clinic in Florida where she teaches. And so we started to put hands-on, and it was really unheard of back then. I was the hands-on practitioner for 2 therapists. And this woman came in, she had lived with a chronic neck and shoulder pain her whole life. And she was like her middle 30s. And she had gone the route of the doctors, and nobody could tell her what to do. They said, it's in your head, go see a therapist. So she did. She came in and she met with Dr. Carol, who was right down the hall from me. I had a studio set up, and Carol did an intake with her, and she said, you need to have a session with Susan. So she made an appointment, came in, and fully clothed. I had her lie on the table, and I just started to move my hands around. I didn't even know what I was doing back then. It was a little creepy for me too. I get this message, go up here, put your hands here, okay, go over here. So I got up to her neck and shoulders. I just basically placed my hands on her neck and shoulders. Now she was lying face down on the massage table. And she wasn't on the table 10 minutes. She started to raise her arms up over her head, sobbing, having memory of being strung up in a barn as a child. Now that was living in her body. And back then, we didn't know what we were doing. But today, this is very common. Now we know that trauma hides in the body.
Yeah.
So you have to get in there and give it permission to release and let go.
Mm.
And so I hope I answered your question.
You did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You did. You did.
And as a life coach and talking to women that have been through that type of trauma, one of the things they also express is that their partner would ask permission to touch them or to kiss them until they felt more secure, safe, that it was just that and not, because sometimes when they would touch them, they would flinch and, that flashback of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So that seemed to work. And eventually, as they got comfortable with the physical touch, it wasn't as bad. The trauma started just easing away. Um,
Good.
yeah.
There's hope. There's hope. There's hope. And let's also keep in mind too that there's also the good touch.
Mm-hmm.
Some people fall in love by the touch of a hand.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's their love
Raise of a
language.
shoulder.
Yeah, that's their love language. A kiss on
Yeah.
the forehead.
Yeah.
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 Well, we do that to babies. We kiss them on their forehead and rub their little noses, and
Oh yes.
you know,
I have a little 14-month-old baby. She loves doing that. My favorite little friend, little pal.
mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, me and my granddaughter, we do that. We rub little noses together and
Very
stuff.
endearing.
So yeah.
Very endearing. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So this next love language, talking to a few friends, um, this is what they say is the most difficult, acts of service. That old saying, actions speak louder than words.
Mm.
Unlike most of us, rather hearing words of affirmation, but there are those that choose to show their affection by doing things like mowing the lawn, doing the dishes, or getting up in the middle of the night to take care of the little ones, letting you sleep in. Anything that make your partner feel appreciated or that can help their life be easier. Feeling affectionate no matter how small or big that gesture is. Dr. K, in relationships, we sometimes get away from doing those special things to show our appreciation, even just to say thank you. What are some of the things that you can suggest, other than those uh, acts of service that we can do, and even that include a little bit more intimacy?
Mm. So one of the very first assignments for a couple is to go in separate rooms,
Mhm.
take a piece of paper or a notebook. I encourage folks to keep a journal as they're going through the sessions and the work with us, so they can refer back to the exercises or they can see their progress. So if they have started a journal, or they could use this to start a journal, is one side of the paper is your what I call the turn ons. And the other side of the paper is your turn offs.
Mm.
And I don't just mean I like butts or I like boobs or, like that. I want those things that have you get up in the morning and be joyful in your relationship. Like, what are those things that get you out of bed? What lights you up? I'll say like things that that are precious to you, and maybe having a glass. I love having a glass of wine on the deck with you. That turns me on, like lights me up to our relationship. I don't like it when you throw your dirty underwear on the floor. That's a turn on.
Right.
Right? So
Yep.
they have to make their own lists, and it makes them sit and think, what do I like? And what is it that does light me up about being in this relationship? And what are those things that, turn me off? And so then their assignment will be, after they've written them, we come together and we start to share them. Or I give them a 3-minute game. I call it, where you set a timer, and for 3 minutes, one talks about what it is about this thing that I am turned on about or turned off about that I want you to know. And then for 3 minutes, the other person gives back what they heard them say, not to refute or to add to or defend themselves. It's being heard. Communication is not about talking. It's about listening and being heard. And that's why most people end up in my office. They're like, they start fighting over something. Oh, never mind. We've thought about this for 20 years, or, I never get heard, never gets resolved, because we don't get heard. So it's the give back. So with each of these items, it gives them a lifetime to play with this list. You can add it, subtract it, or once you have the 3-minute game down, because that's the hardest part, is, to sit and listen and give back as verbatim as you can what you heard them say. So it builds that ability to share in your communication, and in a way that if you don't structure it, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen.
One thing I like about what Gary Chapman said in the book, part of his introduction is that the fact that we all pretty much want the same thing when it comes to relationships. And it's amazing how we can all be trying to say the same thing, or are saying the same thing. We're just seeing it in different languages, in different ways. And how frustrating it can be when we're all trying to say the same thing but not understanding each other. It's like knocking our heads up against a wall. Somebody introduced me and gave me that book over 16 years ago.
Wow.
Yes. And at first I got it. It was nice. It was a nice gesture. I got the book and I just put it down. I'm like, thank you so much. And I put it aside. And that person is a lifelong friend. I call him a brother. I was going through some stuff. Just left a relationship and it wasn't working out. And then we decided we're going to, let's give it another try. And maybe just get married. He proposed. And my friend at the time, God bless his soul, I'm going to call, he said to me, Sophie, before you do anything, his name is Gary too. So as he said, before you do that, read this book. Needless to say, had I read that book, it could have saved me a lot of headache. It could have saved me. But after I did, when things didn't work out and I sat down and I had so much time on my hand and I reflected and I read that book, it was like an eye-opener, because I saw so many things that I didn't see or didn't understand then just by spending time with that book. And I must add that since then, I had made a copy of that book, and I had given it to so many people that I know in my life right now. And I have also applied the love languages to my life in everybody that I know, with everybody, because it's important to try to understand what the person is trying to communicate once you care about the people in your life. So these different languages that we speak, and I like what you did. I'm taking notes. That 3 minutes. It's important to sit and be still and just listen to what is trying to be communicated to you without interruption. Just all ears. I love that.
Set the timer.
Set the timer. Set the timer. It's the length of a song.
Yeah. Dr. Kaye, is there any other languages of communication that we should know about? Other than the 5 we just talked about?
Well, it's hard to put anything in a box. I don't like to say, this is it. This is the way. This, in fact, I'm writing a book called "Am I Normal If?" Because that's what I hear in my office always is, am I normal if my eyebrows are crooked, or am I normal if I really don't like oral sex? Am I normal if I hear it around all these shoulds. Like there's so many shoulds that we get, and the magazines all sell shoulds. And so it's coming down to when I have a client that's struggling, I'll say, well, let's find out what's natural for you. And let's go to work on that. And that, again, is the you with you, like to build that you with you that you take into you with other. And so to say, is there 5 languages? I mean, these are certainly languages we can spiral out of. I mean, these are differentiations that we can spiral out of. Like if you're the person that has the service language, like when you do a 3-minute game around, what does it mean to you that I like to do the service? And you dialogue about it, maybe you can find other ways that it can be incorporated into other parts of your relationship. So to play with it, massage it, I think people to find really what is their true language, and does it change sometimes? Yeah, I mean, we don't have to always have it be the same. Maybe there's something that happens and you watch a movie and it teaches you that, hey, we could do that too. Like always be open for change and not be stuck. I think the flow of growth and development and changing bodies as we age, changing what's important to us. Always be flexible and communicative. Yeah.
With these love languages, is it important for us to know our children's love languages so that we can better communicate with them?
Mm-hmm. When I do an intake with a new client, I want to know those first 5 years. Like, what can you tell me about your environment, what you remember, what has traveled with you through your life? And people go, oh, I don't remember anything before the age of 3, But when I start asking questions or they start talking about it, things come to mind. Oh, yeah, I remember my dad used to come in and give my mom a kiss whenever he came home from work. Or I remember that when my dad came home, he started fighting with mom. So we're reading our world with our senses. We don't have cognition on board till we're like 6 or 7. So that's why my 5-year window is wanting to know, what did they absorb sensually? What, a lot of people remember grandma's chocolate chip cookies. Oh, the smell of grandma's cookies, right? Or the sounds of something or the feel of something. And so the languages that we start to generate and create in this time frame are of immense value, because it takes us into the next phase. Because then I want to know, who were your first attractions? And most people can tell me the name of that first girlfriend or that first guy that caught their eye. And, oh, yeah, I remember Bobby Joe. Oh, yeah, I remember, from kindergarten. So it's, what have you applied that you've brought from your memories of what your language is that wired in your body? How are you now taking that out into the world? So being observant with your children, like, what are you teaching them through their sensuality? Now, we relegated in our culture sensuality to mean something sexual, but it's really our most primal platform for development, either positive or negative. So I would say, when you're around your children, watch your language and help them to develop theirs. Yeah.
And as thinking back to when we were young, some of us actually was doing some of these love languages. I don't know if you remember in school when some guy would pass you a note, do you like me? Would you date me? And then you would write back a response, you check the little box and send it back. So kids were actually communicating that love language of, I guess, words, of affirmation before they even knew anything about this. And it's cute too. Even, some couples used to, husband going out of town used to put a little lunch note in the briefcase before they go to work, or little things. And so those are special things to get back to. And I guess, going back to basics and not forgetting those, languages, and, it's keeping a relationship strong.
Yeah, as in most things in life, the simple things are really more of value, and the things that we remember about a grandmother or a loved one, or a connection. It is the simple things, and it is an important language to remember.
And less stressful.
And less stressful and less expensive. Yeah.
Are we getting close to the end of our show? Sophie, please share some of your words of wisdom to sum all of this up.
Words of wisdom. What I will say is that I think it's important to, with all this being said and all that have and has been said, we are all ultimately created under this sun, not to be alone. We're created for one another. We're created to have companionship. And in regards to finding who will be an ultimately good partner for us, we have to ensure that we're compatible, in the sense that we can communicate, feel comfortable with each other, love and care for each other enough, respect each other enough to want to invest time in understanding what it is that makes each other feel good, feel special, feel connected, feel appreciated, feel loved. We all want love. We just speak it, give it, share it, and ask for it, request it in different ways. I know that you went over them, there's quality time. I think it's important to find out who the people who are in our lives, what is it that makes them feel appreciated. Apply these principles, apply these languages that you've heard. Take time out to really process, invest, observe, and see what it is that they're trying to say, how they're speaking. Sometimes it may be, again, it's quality time. It could be words of affirmation. It could be physical touch. It could be giving and receiving gifts. And it could be, acts of service. What is it that that person has been doing that you finally may just understand? Let's take time out to also realize that some of us speak multiple languages. You may be bilingual. Your partner may be speaking another language that you probably will understand with a feel, with a touch, with a sense, with a kiss, with a gift, with a rose. But it ultimately means I love you, or they want to be loved. Try to apply these to our children. Teach them the same thing, that it's important to share love in the way that they want to receive love. Observe and be respectful that we are all precious, ultimately, and we all want the same goal. Take time out to love one another the way they want to be loved. That's my words that I would just want to share with you right now today. Everything that Doc has said right here, Dr. Kaye, remember, 3 minutes can make a difference in our lives if we really take time out to see, hear, understand, feel, touch what our partner likes or does not like, what turns us on, what turns us off apply those to when you log off today, and probably want to go home this evening or this weekend, when you find some quality time, to spend some quality time with ourselves and our loved ones. And we may just discover so much that we didn't realize, that we didn't know, because we didn't know until this evening watching this show, The G.L.O.W 365. So until then, I would say bundle it all up in a nice big bowl and say thank you to Dr. Susan Kaye for coming and giving us her wisdom and sharing her time with us today. And just love and be loved. Learn the love language. Go download the Gary Chapman 5 love languages, and apply it to our lives today, starting right now. Especially like we're all still social distancing somewhat. Put it on your earphones. We all have a smart device, and get in the know as to how we can actually bring out the greater wellness of glow within ourselves by understanding how to give love and receive love.
Thank you, Sophie. Dr. Kaye, any final words?
Yeah, as I hear you saying love, Sophie, it reminds me, I play with words. I kind of arrange words and move them around. And love spelled backwards is evolve. Play with that. It's evolve. And it's how are we evolving with ourselves inside of this seemingly complicated, but yet it is so simple. And it is so natural to who we are as human beings. And yet we have it so complicated and so elusive. Like we're always like grabbing for it. Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? So looking at what it means to you to imply that you are evolving inside of your love language. That's what I would offer for consultation.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kaye.
Thank you.
We have come to the close of our show, and I would like to thank our special guest, Dr. Susan Kaye, and you, the viewers. For more information on Dr. Susan Kaye, please visit online at www.drsusankay.com. And, I also want to share, not knowing our love languages or your partners could potentially lead to not fully understanding and communicating well with our partner. According to Dr. Chapman, author of the 5 love languages, there are 5 ways to speak and understand emotional love. Keeping the happiness and the understanding in any relationship is beneficial and crucial to maintaining healthy. You can visit online at 5lovelanguages.com/quizzes/love-language to take the quiz so that you can know what your love language is and also your partner. And don't forget, coming up, please join myself, founder of Ribbons of Survivors, in association with Carla Lewis, founder of Kids Conquering Sickle Cell Disease Foundation, and Lady Q, founder of Pink 360, for our 3rd annual Warriors of Hope and Courage virtual celebration this Saturday, October the 23rd, from 6 to 8 p.m., streaming live on Facebook at Ribbons of Survivors 365 page, and also on YouTube at official KOOGE magazine. We will be honoring individuals who are survivors or still battling condition of lupus, uterine cancer, domestic violence, breast cancer, mental illness, sickle cell, And our keynote speaker will be lymphedema cancer survivor, attorney Aramis Leo. Special performances by Adriana Clark and Lima Dunbar. Also, we are paying a tribute to Brian Ivy and Dottie Good, who has lost their battle to cancer. Coming up in the next episode of G.L.O.W, our special guest will be Dr. Donald Tate of Dr. Donald Tate and Associate, who is a grief recovery specialist. He will be sharing how to get relief from grief by flipping the script on Tuesday, November 16th. Until then, I am Coach Mia coming to you from Ocoee, Florida. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, continue to find your glow within the mind, body, and soul.